Today is Monday, June 10th, 2024. It is 6:30 and keep it along.
All right, yes, we call the meeting to order. Missing our chair, but get started anyway with any commissioner updates.
I do not have any at this time.
No updates.
All right. The only, I said, the one update I have, the chair of the select board has reached out again about MOA for supervision of the director. So that discussion is underway again. We went through a round of discussion last year and decided to hold off. But we're back to having that discussion.
So what does that entail?
It's in some form or another, sort of formalizing the giving the town administrator a supervisory role over the director, not taking, so we still have the hiring and firing authority, but to give the town administrator some role in supervision and review.
How does that compare with the library director?
Similar. So there are a number of these in place. It's the one that is probably, well, yeah, I would say similar. There are quirks in each of them. There he is. Hello, sign, Mike. And details to be worked out amongst all of them, I would say. So,
Gotcha.
all right. How about yourself? We're just, my update is that the as you know, the chair of the select board has reached out about the MOA again.
Yeah.
So, yeah, starting the discussion.
I should know this. Is there a new chair now since the elections?
We have not done that. That's
Actually,
six on the agenda.
The select board chair.
Oh, yes, sorry. Mark Kronbacher is the chair
Okay.
He never got in touch with me.
now. Okay, we.
Okay, all right, that's fine.
Cool.
Do we have no update?
What other?
I have one update. I spoke up at town meeting regarding the orchards. And I was thinking about getting on the working group. And I'm not sure if, I mean, I think from a park and rec standpoint, that'd be probably helpful to kind of know what's happening in the orchards. I was going to fill out the application and be on that working team.
Yeah, I mean, that's great. I think that we have explored it a little bit and there's very little opportunity for rec there.
With like all of the APR, I mean, the fact that the APR is over most of it.
Right. So I guess conceivably, and yeah, there's a lot going on with that. So, but yeah, I don't think there's much rec opportunity, but it'd be certainly good to have get good ideas and want to participate.
Kevin, do you have any updates?
No, I have nothing to update.
All right. We have a vote to accept the minutes.
The minutes are a little funky.
Okay.
I was not here. I guess my doppelganger was here. And I voted on a lot of things.
Right, some minutes. So do we want to table the acceptance
Yeah,
of
let's
the minutes
table
until
that.
next month?
And we'll,
So we clarify.
I did a few seconds.
And Scott, so you weren't here in the last meeting, Peter, but Scott, you were. So I wonder if Alicia just flip flop the names.
today.
It looked like maybe it was a cut and paste from the previous month and it was in New York City.
All right, so we will, we'll table the acceptance of the minutes and we will have those on the, July meeting. Okay,
Gotcha.
so we do have a guest coming in, Nikhil, from Kaizen Registration Software. Nikhil, if you can unmute yourself, I'll let you say hello.
Hey Tim, how's it going? And great to meet you, everyone. Thank you so much for offering the time.
All right. So Nikhil, I'm just gonna kind of give these guys a quick rundown and then we'll turn things over to you. Let me be able to share your screen when you're ready. So just for everybody, we started using our recreation software that we have, MyRec, in 2017. And we upgraded from the software that we were using at the time. Over the years, different recreation softwares have come about. None of them really seem like they tackle every piece of the recreation business that we have. Some do really well at camp registration, some do really well at facilities, others do really well at programming. And when we were at the Director Summit in Virginia, we met Nikhil and KJ, and we had some conversations with them. They did some great presentations. You'll find through Nikhil that they're using, AI technology, things like that, to do pretty amazing things and tackle things that haven't been able to be achieved before. We met with our entire staff in Nikhil at the MRPA conference in March, and we've done a couple webinars on the Kaizen software. So the full-time staff in the office are behind making the switch over. If we, decided to go forward with that in January of 2025, we would onboard our summer programs for next year potentially, and then go forth with making the full switch over as soon as it kind of went through attrition. We do have our MyRec contract through the end of June every year. That is a fiscal contract. And we'd like the Park Commission just to weigh in on this discussion and decision as well. So without further ado, Nikhil, take it away.
Awesome. Can you guys see and hear me okay?
You're a little muffled. I don't know.
Uh-oh. Okay. Give me 1 second. Let me
Okay, I'm
connect
gonna
my...
stop sharing my screen. You should be able to share your screen.
Okay, I just disconnected my headphones. Is that a little bit easier to hear?
Can you just talk a little
Quiet on our end, but
quiet on our end, but it's okay. We can hear you.
Okay, I'll speak up as well. Awesome. Thank you all so much for making the time. I would love to, I know I'll try and keep this brief within, maybe 10, 12 minutes. So I'll talk a little fast and I want to get to showing you, not telling you. So maybe giving you just some high level context on me and Kaizen and what we build. Like Tim was saying, we started the company because, I don't know, I guess we just kind of felt like something was wrong in the world of municipal software and specifically in the registration technology environments where, I'm sure every one of us can attest that we've pulled out Airbnb in the last, couple of years at some point. And we've done things like whip our phone out, click on someone's house in a different country, click, add a couple of details about you and your background. And in 5 minutes, I can go on Airbnb and I can book someone's house in Paris. And it's 10 times the cost of a facility rental or a summer camp. And honestly, a lot of the same workflows, pictures, imagery, events, scheduling times, those kinds of things. And it's really easy and seamless to get in and out of using the platform. And then on the payment side, these days we're going into coffee shops and restaurants and people are coming out with these wireless credit card readers where they're using Tap to Pay and Apple Pay. And our goal as a municipality, we serving municipalities as a company, was saying, well, is it possible to make those experiences look and feel more like the everyday products that we're all used to using in our daily life? And that was sort of where we specialized in rec software. For me, it was living in LA and trying to go play municipal golf at one of the 13 municipal golf courses in Los Angeles, and struggled mightily to be able to get through the application. And that's my background. I'm a software engineer by trade, and I spent most of my career working at big tech companies and just wasn't really having the impact that I wanted, and was also trying to play municipal golf every weekend, and just kind of put two and two together. And I was like, is this possible for me to make a career out of it? So that's a little bit about me and the work that we do. Would love to maybe show you some stuff. I'm actually also joined up on my phone here. And in the 10 minutes that I have, I'd love to actually just give you a quick tour of two platforms. We do a lot more than just this, but I always like starting on the phone because I think it's a good explanation of sort of why we feel like the tools that we're building are helpful for our communities. And I'm actually going to start with a platform that we built for the community of Weymouth. So I'm actually going to go on my phone here. Give me 1 second. And then I'm going to screen share and see if this click start broadcast. It should pop up on your screen in just a second. Let's see if this works. Awesome. Can you guys see what I'm sharing here?
Yes.
Awesome. So I'm first going to show you a couple different platforms. The first was going to be for the community of Weymouth. Their team was just amazing kind of early champions of ours, and they sort of saw the value in wanting to sort of move to a more modern platform for their Parks and Rec services. And then also any chance the members of this board have also tried to use the existing system to kind of sign up for summer camp or a swim class or something like that. So maybe there's a little bit of familiarity with the existing system.
At least my family has.
Okay. Okay, great. So we'll kind of give you a quick little tour of this platform. The whole point, kind of using this theme, was, is it possible to actually make it look and feel like, hey, you're on Airbnb and I just want to be in and out? So the first step is saying your discovery experience. If I click Discover Facilities here, I should see a gorgeous scrolling background of all the facilities that I have access to in Weymouth. I should be able to click on Connell Pool and Rink. And then if I come back, sorry, I accidentally clicked the back button. If I click on Connell Pool and Rink and I scroll up, I should be able to see the latest imagery of that facility. I should be able to scroll through with my hand, and it's that simple and easy. All I'm using is my thumb to just go back and forth. If I come back and I want to click on Abigail Adams Park, it's the same type of experience. I scroll down, and these are pictures that we took from 2023. It's the latest imagery of all these facilities, address, description, amenities, all of this access. We work really close. In this case, we would work really closely with Tim and Alicia and Kaz, and we take all the pictures and we work really closely with your team to get the data on the programs. And then, just like facilities, well, your community also deserves a really easy discovery platform for their programs and classes. In Weymouth, we first launched with them kind of exactly as Tim set up in terms of doing this phased approach, going live in January and phasing out by the June period to be fully off the other system. They started with us with programs and classes. So if I click on swim instruction, I should see a gorgeous picture, get quick and easy data about the swim instruction classes that I have access to. Scroll down. That's Brian, the administrator. I can scroll in and say, hey, this is the summer adult advanced beginner class. I can click register. I'm actually going to do something fun here and log out with one click here to show you what it looks like to actually log into the platform. So let's say here I want to sign up for swim instruction. I come in, scroll down to the class that I have, and then let's say I want to sign up for this class. I'm going to click register. Well, another big thing that community members like Tim and Kaz and Lisha have talked about was duplicate accounts. You have one person that has 6 different accounts in the system, and that's because right now they're using a standard username password model to get in. And if they forget their password, they hit the forget password button, but they just never get an email. And so that's why they have a bunch of duplicate accounts. Or we could use what other technologies do. Click continue with Google, click continue with my Kaizen account. Boom, in one click, I'm in. There it pops up for me, and I can say, who in my household do I want to register? Let's say I want to register KJ. If I forget here, if I'm a busy parent at 5 a.m. and I forget to add my kid to my household before registration opens, I don't want to have to stop here, go all the way back out of my computer, add a kid to my household, and then come back, because by then I've probably lost my spot. I should just be able to click add household member and do it in just 30 seconds and be done. Now I can add it to my cart. It pops up on my cart easily like that. I click continue to checkout. Any sort of account disclaimers or waivers, I would love to show you if you have some time on a camp workflow. I can click view and sign all these waivers using just my finger on my phone, accept and sign, done. Now all my waivers are completed. And of course, if you had a much more complicated camp workflow, if I had more time, I could show you kind of a full 45-minute demonstration of how it could work for other types of camp workflows. And then I could add a new payment method. And this was a big part of our platform. Is if you can go in any coffee shop in America these days and pay with your Tap to Pay and your Apple Pay and your Google Pay, well, why shouldn't you be able to? I won't do it because it's real money, but why shouldn't you be able to Apple Pay your swim classes or your camp registration for that period? Those are the kinds of workflows that we wanted to build in, so it's easier for your residents and your staff. And then, if I had more time, would love to show you an example of how this works on the back end as well for, staff members like Tim and Kaz to be able to administer as well. So it's a small example of how it works on registering for programs, and would happy to show you more detailed examples on things like summer camps and so on. I'd love to show you. I know I was speaking to Alicia last week, and she mentioned that the Littleton team is starting to build out more robust facility reservation process. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Awesome. So showing you an example of how that could work is we built the same types of technologies, but for facility reservations. We do a lot more merchandise, POS, municipal golf courses even. But starting here, in the limited time that we have, if I wanted to come and make a reservation at one of your facilities, whether it's a park pavilion or a sports field or a community room, this is how easy I think it should be. Let's click log in, just like you saw. Boom, one click, I'm logged into the platform. If I want a pavilion or a sports field, let's click sports field. And this is all on my phone. There's a very performant version also on the desktop as well. I just like showing you on mobile because we just want to make sure we sort of put our money where our mouth is when it comes to saying that we're building, that Airbnb style experience. And then let's say, hey, I want to get a sports field this Friday on June 14th. I have access to all my available fields here. Let's say I want the Coyote Ridge baseball field. Here I can choose my section. If I had a half field A or a half field B, it's that simple. If I want to book it from, looks like it's actually quite open for the most of the day. Someone maybe has it early in the morning. If you see this disabled slot, that means it's either closed or someone else has that time on the calendar. All I have to do is drag that slider with my thumb. Great, I want it for 2.5 hours in the morning. If I try and take someone else's time or bleed into a time that isn't actually valid, it's obvious and I can't move forward. Those are the kinds of workflows where now your residents can scan a QR code, be in and out in just a couple minutes, and you're good to go. And then let's say you're a sports coach in Littleton and you want to be able to schedule practice for your teams, and you want that field every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday for the next couple of weeks. It's also that simple to be able to be in and out on the platform. All you have to do is click saved and you're done. Successfully set your recurrence, and then someone like Tim or Kaz on the back end can easily approve that request if the dates check out as well. Click next, enter any additional details here. This form is also fully customizable. Again, if I had more time, I could walk you through how it's customized. Some communities ask about how many people you expect. Other communities ask you to describe the purpose of your booking. For now, I'll just say test. Resident selection. In this community in Castle Pines, they don't let you move forward. If you say you're a coach, you'll notice that I'm not allowed to move forward until I give you a team or league name and I upload a spreadsheet of my roster. So our whole point in building this platform was to make it really simple and easy for the residents to get through. I have to acknowledge some rules here, do everything by the book, enter all the pieces of information that I need, click I understand. I have my order summary here. Looks like I owe $494.64. And then of course I can Apple Pay my facility reservation and be done. I get an email confirmation that's a beautifully branded templated email saying, hey, thank you so much for registering for this facility. Someone can go into the back end and approve it. And our whole goal is to build both the front end and the back end just as easily as you're seeing it now for the resident. So I want to be really respectful of your agenda and your time. So I'll stop there. If there's any questions.
Nikhil, I think one of the neat pieces of the software that you kind of just mentioned, if you want to elaborate on, is those upload points and how you guys are using technology in order to vet the different documents and really kind of keep everything pretty secure.
Yeah, absolutely. Here, let me pull up some examples on the computer as well. So as Tim was mentioning, one of the ways that we've been integrating tools and technologies like the AI toolkits into our software has been trying to make it less a tool of apprehension and actually not directly saying, hey, this is using an AI algorithm or something like that, but instead actually just making it really useful for a parks and recreation context. So I'm going to show you a few examples of how we can do it, and then showing you more kind of deeper into those workflows as well. I wanted to show you another quick example. Tim, you guys also do memberships, right, to certain facilities and those kinds of
Yeah, so
workflows?
we do have a membership to the beach area as well as a membership to our teen after school program. Those are the two current ones that we use.
Okay, awesome.
We pickleball's offline, obviously, because we don't have courts, but yes, there is a pickleball membership when we do have it.
Awesome. Can you guys see my screen here?
Yep.
To show you an example, very excited to share that it's likely that the Maryland Department of Natural Resources will be one of our customers next year. And they have the same kinds of workflows, except they have very large campgrounds, state parks that you need to book and reserve. And I wanted to show you an example workflow of how we would do memberships and licenses for them as well. You may call them different things. They may have different tiers and so on and so forth. But let's go ahead and get a vessel or boat registration, or if you have a boat ramp launch or a park pass or something like that, you can click purchase. Let's say I want the Maryland Park Passport. I can choose my quantity, continue to check out here. And then like Tim was saying, you can enter your registration details. And then when you upload things like proof of residence as a document upload, first off, we are fully HIPAA compliant. So you don't have to have Tim and Kaz and his team pay for Camp Docs, which is another piece of software, or ePack, which is another HIPAA compliant piece of software, just to be able to store and maintain those sensitive, personally identifiable documents. They can fully live on our servers without any issues because we have our HIPAA compliance. On top of that, we have been using tools. I was actually at the Red Sox game last week leading a session on sort of how we've been using AI in these types of workflows. Now we can do a document analysis. So when someone uploads a proof of residency document, we can actually validate this. We can validate licenses, proof of residency documents, 501c3 certificates. So instead of someone coming here to upload a picture of your dog, we can make sure that they can upload a genuine utility bill or license and have it actually be a valid document. At that point, you can click next, enter all your rules and policies, go through it, do all the form management like I was walking through in a previous example, click next, pay with whatever you want, and then great, now there's your QR code to access your membership. And if I come back and click on memberships and passes, if I click view my memberships, I can log in with my Google account, my Microsoft account, click continue, and let's actually go into my vessel registration as an example. I can view my registration card, and there it is. It's a QR code for me to access. And then most importantly, I can add that to my Apple or Android wallet. And that's just something that lives on my phone. So you don't need to carry a physical ID card in and out. Of course, we support those same workflows, but that was sort of the whole point, was using the latest and greatest in tools like AI, machine learning, website design, and just making a really performant platform. So we do what the airlines do, where you can just keep your boarding pass on your Apple wallet and make it really easy to get in and out as well. So just kinds of small examples of how we've been using some of the technology there. Hi, Alicia.
Hi, Nikhil.
So thank you, Nikhil. If you didn't have anything to add, I think open it up to any questions that the commissioners might have or any else.
I would just say a mobile app for registration for park and rec stuff is long overdue. For sure. It's amazing that none of the other companies have even tried this.
Right. Kevin also used to be a director of Parks and Recreation, so he
Gotcha.
very.
Yeah. And I will say, I mean, it's these are transitions that take time, and a lot of the workflows, even with communities in Massachusetts, a lot of it has been training and implementation and working. I mean, they're kind of exactly as you said, sir. It's such a different way of kind of operating, and that has been something that we're really excited about, and our communities have loved. And we actually have a video that we filmed in Weymouth where an 84-year-old woman was able to sign up for some classes on her iPhone, and she came in and was like, "It's so easy to sign up now." And those are the kinds of workflows where we're trying to make it as streamlined as possible.
Questions?
Yeah, so you guys will dig more and do the comparison between this and what we have now, and I'm sure, costs and payment structure and those things are, things we'll have to discuss in the future, but it looks like a really nice interface, and this fucking does what we need it to. Certainly intriguing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Anything else? Okay, well, thank you, Nikhil. We really appreciate you taking your time to come in and chat with the commissioners. We'll be in touch soon and, yeah.
Thank you. Really grateful for the time and appreciate you making space for me in this important meeting. Have a great
Thank
day.
you.
Thanks again. Thank you for your time.
Bye, Nikhil.
Bye.
So the next thing that we had was, the Littleton Track Organization, is requesting to use Fate Park on September 15th for the Littleton Road Race. We've got Eric online here with us. Thanks for coming, Eric.
Nice to be here. Thank you.
So this is something we do pretty much every year. So I just kind of have you here if the park commissioners have any questions. I think this is a pretty year after year thing. So I don't know if there's, I guess if you know of anything that's going to be different this year that might be different from past years, that'd probably be the only update I think we really need.
Yeah, there really aren't any planned differences. The hope, would be that, where last year, obviously, due to the saturated condition of Fay Park last year, like we were in a position where we kind of split the venue, half on one side of 110 and then half on the other side. Like, the hope and the plan, if we can do it, is to return to kind of the consolidated venue on, the Fay Park side of 110. But beyond that, I mean, everything will be pretty status quo with the event.
Gotcha. Any questions from you guys?
Nope.
Great to have you back.
Yeah. We'll hope that Fay Park will not be underwater again this year. That would be ideal.
Slightly dry summer.
You might have to make it a triathlon, so that could be a swimming area. So yeah, they are just looking to use the park for that September 15th date. Eric, do you know what the times are, or is it like a multi-day? Usually it's like 2 days.
The Littleton Road Race is consolidated just to the 15th. I mean, in the past we have done like, number pickup on the day before on the Saturday, but we haven't been doing that. We've been, opening the number pickup on Sunday morning. So it's really consolidated just to the 1 day now.
Okay, if you guys change your mind, just let me know and then we could update that. Okay. Okay.
Great. I'll make a motion to approve the Littleton Track Organization's use of Fay Park on September 15, 2024 for the Littleton Road Race and waive the fee.
Second.
You run the meeting, am I running? I'm back. All right. So, all right. And we got, no one's online, right? All right, good. So we can, all in favor? Aye. All opposed? All right, the ayes have it.
All right, Eric, you're all set, my friend.
Wonderful. Thank you. If I may, before I drop, as I just happened to catch the tail end of the previous gentleman, Nikhil's presentation, where I am a blind resident of Littleton, and I also am part of Littleton's Disability Commission. I would, encourage that digital accessibility. It sounds very promising. I mean, it's encouraging that an 84-year-old resident in another town was able to, access and use the technology that he was describing. But in those considerations, if in the future, if something, is developing in that way, I would, encourage you all to factor digital accessibility into consideration for such a solution.
I appreciate that, Eric. Yeah, we'll definitely make sure we check in with them on that.
Excellent. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night, Eric. Thanks.
Thanks, Eric.
Have a good night. Thank you.
It was like, oh, sorry. Does does anyone have like a?
No.
Like a void, okay.
No,
An accessibility function.
An
No.
accessibility
not
function?
that I'm aware of, not that I'm aware I'll put it that way.
Yeah, I don't think I know of anything that's,
It's not terribly usable when you can't see it, so.
yeah.
I mean, yeah, that is a
Hit the
fair
Apple
point.
Pay three times too many.
Yeah. All right, so our next, we have Geraldine Miller on the line, to talk about the reuse of the rock labyrinth at 300 King. So I'll switch over to this little section because that was your drawing that you, or Kim's drawing, that you sent in. So, you have, I don't know what, the forum, there we go. Floor, I was trying to say floor and forum at the same time. Oh, you're on mute. There you go.
Hello, everyone. I'm Geraldine Miller and got to work on the project with the local cultural council. So it was a great thing at the time. It was during the pandemic when everyone was painting rocks and trying to, I don't know, kind of create something together, but being separate during the pandemic. But people aren't really painting rocks anymore, and with all of the rain and time passing, the labyrinth has disappeared. So Kim and I were talking and thought that a gathering space would be great with boulders. Kim has done a few of these. She does a lot of landscape design for public libraries. So there's one at the Concord Library. I believe there's one in Brighton Public Library. I know there's one at Shaker Lane. The kids love them. It's a great place to sit. When I've been at the Castle in the Trees, I would see people just laying down in the middle of the labyrinth, teenagers hanging out. So I think people gravitate to the space anyway. So it's a great repurposing of the space. What I like about it is it's low maintenance. The labyrinth needed maintenance. All of the tracks that held all of the gravel needed to be redefined quite a few times. So I like that idea. So Kim and I would oversee it. I happened to see Mike and Joe Cataldo, and I asked them if they would donate the boulders and actually install them, and they said yes. So it's low cost, low maintenance. It's a great reuse of the space, and it's a place for people to sit. Another place for people to sit. If they want to leave the playground, they can wander over to that space. So 2 spaces now. So that's just very simple. There's your sketch. Do you have any questions?
So sort of similar to the labyrinth, like it would be gravel and rocks, and then the maintenance would be something that you would try to upkeep yourself, or the cultural council. Who would be sort of like the folks maintaining and cleaning and doing all that?
Well, the cultural council is the agency that came up with the idea, and they hired me to do the labyrinth. I'm just helping as a volunteer, but it does belong to the cultural council, the project itself. And Kim Ebertelli contacted a Girl Scout troop that has been keeping it fairly maintained. So I assume that will continue.
And just for the space, Tim and Lisher, like, are there any other ideas for that space instead of the labyrinth or a sitting space?
Yeah, we talked about it last time about putting in like a octagonal shaped pavilion so that it could be kind of a covered space and something that's nearby, because we really don't have very much like covered seating area. So that's something that we were looking into using for that space. Yeah.
There's really no shade structure in that park at all. As far as places to put a shade structure, that would be the only other place that we could go. Because it's that flat piece of land. We have the retention pond, we have the 3 basketball courts we have currently. The rest is the entire playground. So that could be something that could be very useful to have in that spot. We do get a lot of birthday party rentals and such that use that one little picnic table that's located just inside of Aiden's playground. So that is something that we've had comments before is, is that something that, we could provide at all of our parks? We've got comments on that. We need, more accessible, kind of tables and picnic areas and things like that. So that would be something that, this space could definitely be utilized for. I think the big concerns when we talked about, putting boulders in a children's park where, just injuries that could come with that. Kids jumping off the boulders and getting hurt, kids falling into the boulders and getting hurt. There's not really any, it is a seating area, if you will, if the boulders are, set up correctly, but it's not accessible seating for all. Whereas, if we put a picnic pavilion or a structure up there that had accessible benches and things like that, it could be utilized a little better.
What would the gap be between the rocks? I could see that as it's jumping from one rock to another.
Kim has it designed so that they're 2 feet 4 inches apart. Like I was saying, she's done quite a few of these, so I assume that they're working well in all of these places. It's like the children's library, the garden there, so Shaker Lane. So I think they're pretty solid as far as safety goes. Of course, there can always be an accident. I was in the Maynard playground this past weekend with my granddaughter, and they have a small, half circle. And yes, she did. She's 3, and yes, she was hopping from boulder to boulder. You hold her hand and help her along. And
How far, like, have we explored costs for like a pavilion or something on that site, or like how far along have you guys looked into something?
So we did actually just quote out a similar structure that we're going to use in lieu of the sailing tent, and that came in between 9 and 11,500. That was a structure that we could also take the tarping off, the canopy off, sorry, during the winter months, so that we could get a longer life out of it as well.
Sure.
So essentially, that's kind of the ballpark for something in the size we're talking about.
You got the same size, that's like, what, 20 by 20 or thereabouts?
Yeah, so that's 20 by 20 structure. Yep.
yeah, this would be more aesthetic and more artful versus what you're talking about, the structure. And I mean, that's a moneymaker, so that's a plus right there. This would just be artful and a nice gathering space. So
Yeah.
depends which way you want to go.
Do we want to maybe table this until we can get some more info from you guys about like what the potential is for something over there versus this, or I'm just kind of throwing things out. I don't know what folks want to do.
And my first thought is some of the things Tim brought up with, parties and kids and people there all day, they're snacking, they're eating. I mean, I think having a place to sit undercover on a, 90-degree day, as nice as it is to be outside. A break from the sun's pretty important as well too. And then just having a place to gather under that shade, to me, would take priority first. I mean, if that's exhausted or another place in the park, that's great, but it doesn't seem like we could accommodate. Seems like that's the one spot. So yeah. That's what I would lean towards.
I think one thing that we can do as well is, we could put out a very simple, it's very easy for us to put out a little poll.
Oh, yeah, like a
Be
little
a constant
survey.
contact or a little something like that, just asking. We have some of that data already in the statistically valid survey that we got, but it's very simple to put out a, hey, which idea do you like more?
Yeah. Do you
Something
recall,
like-
like, was there any I don't know I don't remember if there was like spot for people to say this is
Yeah,
what.
shade structures and pavilions are definitely one thing that's called out in that.
Really?
In all of our,
Yeah.
so at the beach, at Bay Park and 300 King, shade structures and pavilions were one of the most demanded things. It was definitely in the top 10 in a couple of the questions. But in this instance, because there are two ideas out there, we could just, we'll ask the general public, when you visit
Yeah.
300 King Street, which element is most important to you?
Yeah.
I think that that's ultimately the best decision, because then we're meeting the needs of the people, which is our charge anyway.
Yeah, I think to your point, I don't think we need to make a decision now.
Yeah, so,
Consider this, consider other options. There is, I think, something very similar at Shaker Lane, right at the traffic circle. So if we can,
There's like, I know the reading area that we're talking about
Yeah.
outside by the tree.
oh, it's to the left of the little cafeteria there, is that what you're talking about?
Yeah.
There's like a little bench there.
right on the end, you go around the.
Yeah.
The front entrance, just past the front entrance, there's a little triangle and it's right there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a smaller version of this, but
Okay,
Yeah, it's much smaller, I think.
And it gives us
gives you the an idea.
Concord Library,
Yep.
the other
Talk
ones
to the-
that were mentioned.
Talk to the staff there, see if they.
Yeah.
Have any concerns or had any issues or what kind of usage we'll see.
All right, so anyone have any issues with tabling this for a little bit until we sort of get a better idea of what the residents want, or, and maybe we can kind of, maybe we'll do a field trip over to the Concord Library. And take a look over there, so.
Yeah, it's beautiful. They even have some bronze statues of the make way for ducklings, like couple of duck,
Cool.
some grasses. It's really quite nice.
Nice. Yeah, so we'll table this and either, so this is June, maybe either July or August. Do we take August off last year? We'll figure it out and then we'll let you know.
Yeah, no worries.
Come back with
We
some
were
more
just
discussion.
there and we said it's time. What else can we do? And thought we would just throw it out there for you.
Okay, appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Welcome. Bye-bye.
All
The
right.
organization time.
Not it. All right, so what are the roles? This is it here. We've got,
Yeah.
all right. If anybody wants to be the chairman, I am by no means.
I will, yeah.
Saul, do you want to tag off on this time?
Yeah.
All right. All right, so I will relinquish.
Well, somebody has to nominate. Have to
No, no, no.
A
Saul's
second.
it. All right, so I nominate Saul to be the chair and MOU panel with Board of Selectmen and it's a Little Public Schools.
Mhm.
Hey,
Exciting.
Kate, you're chairman. Good person.
Just in time.
So yes, I will nominate Saul for chair of the Littleton Parks and Recs Commission.
Chair over there.
I'll second that.
Thank you, Peter. All right, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Don't oppose it, Saul. It's unanimous. And Saul is our. All right, so what's?
Vice chair, so you
Vice
can't be
chair.
both, my friend, I don't believe so.
No, I don't think so.
No, I doubt it. So. Are there any nominations on the floor for vice chair?
Anybody interested? Anybody?
I will say that I will.
At once.
I will volunteer as vice chair if I am so nominated by the commission. All right, they don't want me.
Just came back, so you guys are swapping roles, basically.
Well, we've.
You want to be vice chair?
We want to be vice chair.
Peter, Scott.
I would, if you didn't want to do it,
I nominate Peter
Right.
for the vice chair
I'll
role.
second that.
All right, all in favor? Aye. All opposed? All right, congratulations, Peter.
heartbeat away.
Yeah, that's right, that's right. Hope Sal stays healthy. All right, so.
Very like.
It's gonna be a coup, so.
I was gonna say, you're not supposed to be allowed in the same room together, right?
Can't travel together.
Who's Secretary of the Interior? All right, so school committee liaison, Kate, would you like to continue in that role?
Sure, unless anyone else wants.
All right, so I will nominate Kate. Oh, no, I can't do nominations. What am I doing? I can't do that, right?
Well, you did it the last two, so.
Yeah, so, no, I nominated him.
Oh, yeah.
He nominated me.
Yeah,
I
that's fair,
nominated
that's fair.
All right, Peter. So yeah, I don't think I'm supposed to do nominations.
I'll nominate Kate as school committee liaison.
I'll second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, authorized packet signer.
I don't know if we really have done that.
No, we really haven't.
We
She
should,
should.
though.
Somebody should do it. It
Yeah.
has not been. Yeah.
We're very thorough, but it's always great to
Another
have
set
checks
of
and
eyes,
balance.
So if anybody else would be more
What
rigorous
is
about
it?
it.
Sean used to be the best at it.
So, essentially, it's coming in on a weekly basis, taking a look at the AP packets and, which is, essentially bills. Bills packets, payroll, P card, purchasing cards, like, sorry, I gotta like switch the lingo over. And just taking a look at it. If you have questions, ask questions, and then just signing off on those packets. It's a checks and balance system that's a really nice thing to be able to have in place.
Park and Rec IRS.
You got it. I forgot, Sean always came in like clockwork.
And if not, we should schedule an appropriate time and actually do it.
Okay.
If nobody else wants.
If I will,
You come in weekly?
I should be able to, yes.
But my only hesitation, I'm in Malden from 6 to 4 every day. so
Yeah.
Unless it's something where I can come at 5 or 6 PM, I don't.
I can do it.
So that's my only hesitation is, with
Yeah, no, no,
something, but every once a week might be tough for me to disappear.
So have you been officially
I have
nominated?
not been nominated.
Sure, I'll nominate Kevin Negrano to be our authorized packet signer.
I'll second.
All right, all in favor? Aye. All opposed? All right, the authorized packet signer. When do I typically, like, is it just any day of the week or is it just? Okay.
We typically, payroll's completed on Monday, so today is a payroll day, it's bi-weekly, both are bi-weekly, so
Opposite weeks.
opposite weeks.
Okay.
Yeah. If there's stuff that you need to sign off, I'll give you a packet and say, here you go sit at the table, ask questions.
All right.
Yep.
We'll do that.
Excellent. Okay,
All right, so Community Preservation Committee Representative.
CPC, that's all.
Anybody else want to?
All right, can we get a nomination for?
Is there, before we do that, is
I
there,
think if you're staying, I don't know if you have. to
are there
do
any
that.
changes to the remaining,
Oh, yeah, so we'll skip that one for now. So I'm fine sticking with Sports Council.
Yeah.
With Scott, Peter, do you want to keep on the permanent? Building committee?
PNC.
All right, and Open Space and Recreation Plan Implementation Committee.
Well, this is the
that-
team that's actually doing the work.
Doing the work, not making the plan.
has that actually been?
Yeah, is that?
It has been defunct for quite some time, so I'm gonna start like stirring that stick and
Okay,
saying,
so-
let's go, guys.
I'd say we can nominate somebody to that when the select board
Okay.
commissions.
I mean, they are all still, like, if you look technically online.
on it.
Your name's still on it.
Oh, not that one. There's
Oh.
so this is the confusing. There's the OSRP committee, which you were on, that dissolved itself.
No, he was on. the
I was in
implementation.
the implementation.
Implementation committee too. Okay, so then you still are. I didn't know you were. Cool, phenomenal. There you go. Yay.
Diane doesn't have to take my name off.
I didn't know, so, okay. Okay, cool. Friends up.
I know, friends up, we have to get going.
Come on.
We gotta, because we can't
Outside liaison.
We can't do it.
Documents will magically appear to help you along.
Are there enthusiastic people out there that are ready to?
Donate?
No.
Well,
to
you
find
need
your
to-
friends?
you need to form a
You need
board.
to form
Form
a
a board, yeah.
Yeah.
That's right, it's gotta be a
non-
separate board.
Non-profit.
bylaws. And you have all the stuff that's
All
like,
the stuff. I have a binder sitting on my shelf. You can have a binder and I have some friends you can call in different towns who can lead your horse to water.
Yes.
The challenge is finding the five
people.
people to
be able
to
to
step up because they're already.
So this is a popularity contest. Who's popular?
all
We had-
booked in.
We had close to 4,000 individual registrations this year. I think we should be able to find 5 people.
Hope, yeah. I'll give you Linnea Blaine as one person to reach out to.
4,000 registrations for.
All of our programs.
Oh,
Oh.
nice. Yeah, we have almost 7,000 households in our MyRed system. 10,000 people in town. They're not all from town, just saying, but you know,
Right.
a lot.
There aren't 7,000 households in Milton. so-
No, there are not. That is absolutely correct, sir.
all right, I will give that a whirl.
Yeah?
Yes.
We need to be thinking about who we could get on the board then.
Yeah.
Once
Yeah.
that's up and running.
Someone needs to nominate you, my friend.
All right,
I'll nominate Kevin for the Friends of Park and Recreation
I'll
slot.
second it.
all right, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? All right, and then, so we didn't do community
Oh, sorry, yeah.
preservation, right? We went back to that one. Do you want to stay on that?
Yeah, that's fine, yeah.
Okay, so we don't have to. Do we have to vote on that as well, since it's not reorganizing?
Think so, because you're not like, yeah,
That's-
you're already there, you
Yeah.
know?
So,
So Kevin, are you okay being sports council too with those other things or?
yeah, I mean, the signing thing should be fairly straightforward. Sports councils mainly in the spring, right? Is that when we start, or fall, we start organizing that?
Fall and late winter.
And I think between Scott and I, you know. Figure that out. I think the biggest one is gonna be the Friends of
Yeah.
Parks and Rec, trying to sort of figure that out.
There's Thursday. So on Thursday, you can come start ringing the bell.
Yeah, let's go, Friends of Park and Rec.
There's been a lot of people asking about it. It's on the 12th.
Yes.
Yeah.
It is the
Yes.
Rotary decided that they have a giant carnival coming in next week, so.
Oh, yeah.
Our vendors were very concerned about being able, if we're gonna have anybody. I was also very concerned if we're gonna have anybody, so we scheduled it for the second.
So we've advertised it as the second Thursday. Okay. You guys, well done.
Reorganized.
Yeah.
No, it's an idea.
I feel like I did not print this out for you guys. Discussion on stipend policy. I gave it out 2 months ago. But we said we would kind of hang on to it. We do have to discuss actually the fiscal year 25 stipends. That's the next piece of it. So, yeah, I'm not sure.
We don't have copies of the current policy that we, so we.
I can see if I can pull it up.
Yeah. The other thing is if we need to table it until, they
Yeah,
don't necessarily need to be at the beginning of the year. We did everything at the end of the year last year.
But if we do the stipends, then you guys will get them throughout the year, right? It'll
I'm just
be
saying if you
divided.
did it in July, it's not like it's going to impact drastically.
I guess that's fair.
Right. Yeah. a couple weeks behind or something.
It gives people time to review and make notes. And
Yeah, all right,
Yeah.
so I'll send that out
Yeah.
again, just so everybody has it, and then, so we'll table that for,
And has the town made any progress on their program? No, okay.
that they don't even want to talk about it.
Okay.
So we're gonna table this. Were you gonna say something?
I was.
Okay. so-
No.
Okay. So here, so do you guys want to go over the stipends, or you want to just wait till next month?
What are you going, what's the difference? We're going over what?
Well, just what the, what we would be giving stipends out for and approving that.
This is
Yeah.
the Red Cross.
You got it, yeah. Mhm.
Similar to what we were talking about a couple of months ago. the
You
same
got
ones.
it. Yeah, but Tim has his policy for the, sports council. So that's something we would have to, refresh. The,
I just said, right, yep.
yep. And we did the NRPA and we get this wrong.
CPR.
Certified park and rec professional, thank you.
CPR.
So Tim, Rachel and Kaz, all have gotten it within this last year. So we gave them that stipend, this last go. So the way that we had the policy written was that, for maintaining it, they would get $1,000, every year after, as long as they maintain that certification. And then there was the Red Cross training one. Yeah, so those
It's
are.
the next slide.
I know, I just, if you guys, so it's up to you guys if you wanna discuss, but, ultimately, yeah, those would be the numbers that we're looking at for, July.
But backtracking a little bit off of Saul's question, so for 2024, that all got signed off and in the books.
So what we did for 2024, Tim had already had the sports council, so that was done well
That was
ahead.
done back in like 2020
Yeah,
when we established that.
But the first two,
yeah, so the NRPA, CRP, CPRP, oh my goodness. Each of them received 2,500 for the original, for like, I mean, that's a lot of work to do on their own time. So the $1,000 would be just to maintain. And then the Red Cross First Aid CPR instruction, that would be at $50 an hour for like 50 hours of work, which is definitely around that time, that frame. So, yeah. All right, moving on. Okay. All right, update on projects. You have that one?
Sure. So we've been kind of full force on projects and getting stuff done and getting ready to be open for summer. One of the things that we worked through with Conservation Commission, we've brought it to you guys, was the idea of just making the path on the beach a permanent path. We went out, got quotes. We went with the low bid, which was John Scott Excavation. He, in the last 2 weeks, took him a week, completed the path. So now we have a beautiful path across Long Lake. If you haven't been down there to take a walk, we've got a lot of super positive feedback. We regraded the whole thing all the way out to Beach Road. So the part that you see up in the upper right-hand corner is the conservation partial. We also worked on some stormwater runoff. We re-loomed, reseeded that whole area there. We dumped a bunch sand along the pathway and graded that out. Already in the couple rainstorms that we've had, we used to have 2 really big swales that formed and had big washouts, and the path is already proving to be an amazing erosion control that we didn't have before. These pictures were taken last week by Alicia once it was done. So yeah, we've gotten so many comments about the path so far. People love it. It's doing well. Things that we kind of mitigated. We always had issues with the transitions into Beach Drive. We had an issue with the conservation parcel being out of ADA compliance as far as grading. And then we had an issue with the transition from the ADA compliant mat into the beach parking lot, which we now curb cut and re-asphalt it to be able to be a nice smooth transition in there.
Looks great.
Was there, wasn't at one point the mat went down to the water as well? Is that gonna happen? Like just the
So that goes, so
Removable.
we did have a mat that originally went down there, and the feedback we got the first summer was it broke up the beach too much.
okay,
So we do put the mat over on the walkway closest to the boat ramp. That mat will be
Oh,
put back
okay.
in place.
okay, yeah,
I mean, one of the things that I wanted to see was what feedback we got. And then, in the future, based off of, costs and everything else, if we want to look at possibly doing a hardscape down to the water,
yeah.
we obviously know what the project constraints are and how we have to go before conservation, things like that. But if that's something that people would like, we can explore that opportunity in the future and also make that a permanent path.
And we still, the reason we would need that other section over by the dock is essentially, we still have the water wheelchairs, so I just want to make sure that public knows about those.
Sure.
It's first come, first served, doesn't cost anything. So yeah, definitely use those, please. Okay, any questions?
Good.
Okay.
All right, so the next thing, I don't know how many of you have been down the Long Lake. Was some good sized holes in the roof of the bathhouse. As far as we can figure, the roof is probably 30, 40 years old, from the people who have come out and give us estimates. So we did put in a permit application. We do have quotes from roofing contractors, and hopefully we'll get this completed as soon as possible.
And is that new decking as well as shingles or just
Now,
shingles?
I mean, hopefully we're gonna switch this thing out. The old boards are pretty well together, and we're gonna go with that. We're gonna replace the areas that need to be fixed, and then we're going to put new shingles on. Obviously, the 30-year shingles, hopefully, we're gonna have some solution to fix the bathhouse before that time period.
I just put it on there. from
Yeah,
last
so
time.
docs, we got the preliminary, obviously, we went to capital funding for the docs. We based our preliminary numbers off of our numbers from when we had ordered the sailing dock, which was 2019. We were approved for $43,000 worth of capital, just under that. And in our preliminary estimate back from CanDoc, the figures that they came up with were at $65,000. So I'm currently in the process of going back through the numbers. Materials went up about 22%. So I'm currently going through just counting bricks and seeing like what can we take out to get to $43,000. The other question I had for you, which we can look at, is, do we want to look into using some of the reserve funds and, putting into place exactly what we want to get? Is that, do we want to get the full amount coverage gap, or, I wanted to come up with a couple ideas for you all to say, okay, it could be 5,000, it could be the full amount. What does everybody want to do? Or do we just go with the 43 capital and we figure out how to make that work? I haven't had the opportunity to do that yet. Just with how busy we've been in the past 3 weeks. I literally got the quote right before we started doing all of our trainings, and just had an opportunity to look at it again for the first time today. So once I get that information, I'll pass it on to you guys and we can make a decision on how we want to do. To be clear, this is the replacement for that middle swim dock that we haven't had since I believe it was 2020, we didn't put it in because of COVID. And after that, it was just in such disrepair that we got rid of it. And this will also be for the parcel, the conservation parcel right in front of the bench off Beach Drive, to put in the new fishing dock and kayak canoe access dock for people.
And is the swim one just a straight line, or would it? There was
Yes,
a T at one point.
It was, people were very unhappy with me for taking that away. It will remain a straight line just for lifeguard vigilance.
Visibility.
People get behind the docks, it's obviously an issue. Yeah, the T dock will be, right now the fishing dock is a T dock, which is where I'm trying to take most of my blocks out of. The one thing that does impact is if you haven't been out to the sailing dock, there's a really nice bench that's on there now. So it would remove the benches on the fishing dock in the conservation area and a couple other things. It wouldn't make it as accessible as we had hoped that it was going to be.
So the difference was 43 and what's say 65?
20 grand.
Yeah, it was about,
essentially.
yeah, it was a little over 20 grand.
Yeah.
And I'll say, I can forward you guys that quote out. Like I said, I just didn't have any time to get to it before this meeting. I apologize.
We could also, just because they're modular, right?
They're all modular and we can add to it over time. We can move things
Yeah.
around. That's the beauty of this stuff.
Right.
It's, the sailing dock we've reconfigured 3 times. We originally had a plan and our next door neighbors had asked us to shorten the one dock so people can look into, their home, and we reconfigured it and we were able to actually create a really, great spot to park the 2 Zodiac boats. So, this is something, it's the beauty of the whole entire usage of the can dock system.
Whatever you want it to be, right? Like Legos.
All right.
Good.
Right. And this one, if you want to talk about this one too, I'll let you go since this is the brainchild of you and Mike Lynn.
All right, so we met with John. He is one of the head engineers for Activitas. Activitas is the company that we met at the Department of Rec conference. They were highly recommended by some of our colleagues and peers. One of the things that we were looking to do was get the tennis court plan underway. If somebody here, I have my deck from my desk. One of the things that we were looking to do was to get the tennis court project to completion. In doing so, originally we had gotten the design from Places. It's the design that you all have seen in numerous meetings. Unfortunately, when we met with Activitas, as you can see, no matter what we tried to do, there was a huge impact on the actual site. Unfortunately, Places didn't take into consideration the proper setbacks, the spacing between the courts, a lot of the things that we would have hoped to get out of that initial design. Activitas drew this up just to show us what our actual impact was. One of the biggest points of the school was that we really need to not impact bus parking. And as you can see, there's a huge impact to the bus parking. I don't know if we have the second drawing on here.
So I was gonna say, so there's like 2 options at the high school site. So this first one, obviously, as Tim said, will cut further into the parking lot space. So that means that costs are gonna increase for the stormwater management. And they would also lose that space for parking, which, I mean, I don't want to speak for Dr. Clenchy, but essentially that's like a absolute no.
The buses were a big point in this. So second plan and kind of footprint that Activitas came up from us. One thing that this solution does bring up is these courts are correctly oriented, as opposed to the other plan. This would give you 4 courts that are now side by side facing the other direction. And as you can see, we would significantly cut into the Indian Hill property. We would need pretty significant excavation. We would need some sort of a wall, built retaining wall in order to support both, keeping the runoff coming from that hill, which does very quickly ascend up towards the high school baseball field. And then we would need some sort of retaining wall onto the Indian Hill parking lot side. This also pretty much takes away the ability to put in that access road that we had talked about in other renditions. It's not to say that the access road won't fit, but we don't have the engineering, we don't have the survey work that we would need in order to do that. Unfortunately, the other piece to this is, Activitas was nice enough to kind of give us this in order to really engineer out the site. The survey would cost us, somewhere in the neighborhood of a couple grand, but the actual engineering of it to figure out, can this even fit? What do we want to do? It's going to cost us about $63,000.
So there's one other thing,
Yep.
one other issue with this one as well, is that it's straddling property lines. So half of it is public school, half of it is town. So I have talked to Kathy Miller, who's the chief assessor in town. And she said that because they're both town essentially, she wouldn't see that that would be an issue. But it still is just kind of awkward to put a lot of money into building something where it's straddling a property line. So, and you know, it essentially turns this into a slope site. And we all know with the library and everything else, once you start building on a slope site, again, the costs go up as well. So.
All right, so we all walked away from the meeting on Thursday and essentially Mike and I were just kind of kicking it back and forth, and he called me and he said, hey, you know, what's a better idea that we can come up with? So we thought about where we can move the tennis courts to, what do we have that, you know, is amenable and flat and everything else. And realistically, the best site that we currently have is the middle school grass field that's right outside the middle school when you drive up the driveway on the right-hand side. So I went out, I did actual measurements, fit everything on there. So this is what the 4-pack of tennis courts would look like on the middle school site. Things that this does for us is this gives us the ability to have no interruption to the high school tennis team when we're doing the actual construction, because the high school tennis courts would still exist. The site is flatter. From what we know, there's not any immediate utilities or anything that would be in our immediate way. We still need to vet that. Hopefully construction costs would come significantly down even from our initial quote, because there's really not anything that we have to demo. There's nothing, you know, it's a pretty clean site. Aside from removing organics and topsoil and things like that, it's a pretty open site for us to just get started. Timeline wise, this would, if we started at this site, it would start at the same exact time as what we would have been able to start construction at the high school site, which would have been next year. Like I said, the benefit is there wouldn't be an impact to the tennis team like there would have been if we started construction at the high school site. As you can see in the right-hand picture on the lower corner, we can still fit an 8v8 soccer field there. So that is our second smallest one. The 8v8 field that we normally chase, we either put at the high school or we've traditionally put, this year it was on the outside the third base line of Wickham. So that's where the idea would be to move on. Now, in globally thinking, before we switch to the next slide, we've now created more of an impact, because one thing that we've been chasing is a soccer field, right? Now we're taking away one of our green spaces. So the idea kind of came up, okay, how do we solve a large majority of our problems at one time? And you can flip to the next one. The thought is then to say, okay, well, let's make our high school into our green space. The high school now with the sod fields coming back on, as you can see in the top picture, if your eyes are good, you can look on the paper. You can see where the third field already exists. There's actually 3 8v8 fields that are from the varsity field second base running out to like where it says 930 foot. You can see them where they were painted.
On this one.
There's
Yeah,
also,
see them there.
you got to look on your paper to really see it. It is page number 3.
Oh, I don't have all of those. I just have here.
Oh, okay, sorry. I can pass this one around too, and I'll send you guys a copy of this. So there is an existing another 11v11 field, and there's also right on the back side of the softball field, you can kind of see the black lines from where we paint the 8v8 field that I referenced at the middle school. Yep, thank you, Alicia.
It was 1,
So
2.
this gives us the opportunity, and if you look at this, it gives us the opportunity to have 4 grass fields up at the high school. Essentially, this will now become our soccer complex. All of soccer goes to the high school and Kerper, and the Bible school fields for the smaller kids. And now we don't have overlap, and we meet the needs of what we've been chasing. What this proposal does is we've been chasing building another soccer field for years, which was the cost of $1.1 million approximately. We were looking at replacing the high school tennis courts and building new pickleball courts, which initial, quotes that we had gotten in were somewhere around $350,000 to build new. The other project that might be coming up to us is the fact that Shaker Lane project is coming on, and we don't know if we would lose. You can back up for a second. Yep. So Shaker Lane may affect Shaker Lane Field, Ken White, or Cooper. We're not sure. What this does is gives us the ability, if we don't transition the baseball fields right away to soccer, we can fit essentially a Cooper or Ken White on the varsity site and on the softball field that exists. We can just mothball them for now rather than turn them into green space if we need them once we know exactly what's going to happen with Shaker Lane. So we're already thinking ahead for that project so we don't end up in the same situation that we did with the sewer project and taking soccer fields offline. In the future, if we decided that we don't need the baseball fields, we could put grass down and have an even bigger soccer complex where we could have varsity baseball field would hold an 8x8 field, and we could essentially fit a 9x9 field where the back varsity softball field is. And you can flip.
So wait,
Yep.
you said 8v8, we would need 11v11.
So you have 4 11v11s. So we're creating the field we've been chasing forever. We're creating there by taking the varsity field offline. And the reason that it's a creation of a field is when you see the next slide, we're not going to have impact between the groups anymore. So what this does is, and Mike is really excited about this because if we put tennis here and we complete this next project as well, all of the high school sports, with the exception of soccer, are now located at the middle school campus. And all of the rec soccer people are going to be located either at the high school, or baseball is going to be located at Wickham and at the Shaker Lane. So as far as user groups, we're going to take away a lot of our clashes. Our main soccer use, we flip the next spot, that we fill our 11v11 field is in the Wickham outfield, as well as our little kids. And we also use the track site here. So the idea would be to, at a minimal cost, we just redid the infield of Wickham last year. One of the things that the varsity baseball field that Babe Ruth, everybody is really finding attractive is that people actually come to baseball games now because they leave the lacrosse game, they leave the girls varsity softball game or JV game or track meet. Littleton just won their first playoff game in I forget how many years, and the amount of fans that were there, everybody made comments on when they were at our meeting on Monday. So the idea would be to take the varsity baseball field out of the high school. That's how we achieve our 4th soccer field. We would no longer use Wickham for soccer or field hockey. And we would make the varsity baseball field a true varsity baseball field to the equivalent of jet field. So we would put fencing in, we would put netting in, we would put some type of dugout. Most likely they would be fenced dugouts with like a windscreen on the back and a tin roof. On deck circle, batting cage, we'd upgrade the batting cages, and we would get some warm-up mounds. Ideally, to get this project started, it would be a phased project. We would look at doing the netting and the fencing that was required, just to be able to get this up to the standard that we're hoping. The other things like the on deck circles and the batting cages and things like that would be probably a second phase. Initial costs we're looking at for fencing was somewhere in the neighborhood of about $200,000 to complete what we're looking for with the fencing and the netting. So we still need to do some exploration on the full build out of what Wickham would be. But then this would be the varsity baseball field. It would be used for Babe Ruth. Down the line, baseball did have money appropriated to them by the state of Massachusetts in a grant, and Musco Lighting does have money in an escrow account to light a baseball field in the town of Littleton. So that could possibly be repurposed to here. Our concern was if they did build them at Shaker, that also might be impacted. Baseball would very much like to put them somewhere, and this could definitely be a site for that. In our preliminary meeting, there were some issues that were brought up by the business manager of the school. So that would also be
Power.
Power.
Yep, if we wanted to do that, but that would be definitely down the road phase. Phase 1, we really would need netting, netting, fencing, and dugouts is really what we would do in order to do that.
And I was gonna say, just to be clear, so they had mentioned that I guess Chuck DeCoste had helped out and did a backstop. It's been, I think they said it's been like almost 10 years or something. And it's still good. The difference is that the fence is not that vinyl covered.
Right.
So it's not the same material that's being used like at the other complexes. So that was one of the reasons.
The other piece to
Yeah.
it is that in doing this, if we really want to bring this up to what we're looking for in the standard, the backstop would need to be changed. There's significant issues with balls being hit in the cars. Obviously, the netting would mitigate that, but if we change the way the backstop was actually cantered out, it would significantly help with a lot of those things. I know baseball purists won't want to hear that because catchers don't get to make the play, but it was something that we had discussed. So obviously, we're talking about tennis courts. Hopefully, we can bring the cost down on those. The high school soccer field idea is a net zero cost to us. If anything, we might get a little bit of money back because it's going to save Ben time and moving around equipment. Wickham Fields would cost us somewhere around $200,000-300,000 for what we're looking to do.
Yeah.
We can move down the line.
This is all the ones I have in here, but the last piece
So,
of it.
Yeah,
go ahead.
so the last piece would be then, rather
Oh,
than
no,
building
I got it.
new pickleball
There we
courts,
go, sorry, I did.
we could then just resurface and repaint the existing high school courts, which would cost us next to nothing compared to constructing the 2 new courts that we were going to behind Indian Hill. Ideally, we could do everything here and we could phase it in a way that we could get everything done relatively quickly. The other thought was, if we wanted to change one of these courts into a multi-sport court, where not only tennis and pickleball, but we could put basketball hoops up, kind of have one of those multi-sport courts. I do have that in one of the designs. That's something that we could also do here that would offer, more opportunity for the kids who are now at the club, which is going to be based out at Indian Hill, more opportunity for the high school kids and the gym teachers to use, more opportunity for Teen Adventures, which is most likely going to be based out of there in the summer. So that was really, the whole kind of package that we put together and how we would start to finish get to the end here. There are things that cost more money, but overall, not having to build new tennis courts, not having to build a brand new soccer field somewhere, there's significant cost savings in some of the ideas that have been floating out there for years.
Well, we would have to build new tennis courts, just somewhere else on flat ground.
Yes.
Yeah.
Sorry, I meant pickleball courts. I apologize. That's okay. So lastly, we did have a meeting on Monday. We had Kelly Clenchy, Dr. Clenchy, Steve Mark from the school, Mike Lynn from the athletic department. We also had Jason Everhart there, who's the middle school principal, representing their interest in this. There were some concerns brought up that the middle school gym class doesn't have as much green space, getting the kids outside, which is why it's very important to make sure that in doing the tennis court project that we get the field put next to the tennis courts that we had designed here. The other piece was that I was able to talk to Principal Everhart about at the end was, it does create a space that can be utilized during the day for him, just like the high school has, where it's a hard surface, even in the winter times when the grass might be covered by snow and ice. This surface, it could be clear potentially, or it's something that, melts a little quicker because it is asphalt versus the ground. But we could, come up with a way that space becomes as useful to him as what the tennis courts at the high school have been able to be used by the high school PE teachers as well. So that was one of the concerns that was brought up. The other, benefits are to the project. We don't affect the buses. We have better traffic flow overall in all of our things. And the big thing is that we don't have as many conflicts. We really have no conflicts between any user groups now with moving everybody out. So we help with the traffic of the youth sports coming in as the high school sports are leaving their games, because now soccer is going to be up at the high school. We fixed a lot of that. The other big clash that we always had is right as youth sports are starting to take over the fields, it's the dismissal of Tigers Den. There's a lot of traffic in that back corner, which we're now moving half of that traffic up to the high school where they're going to be playing soccer. So I know that's a lot of information at one time. We've been working on this for a couple weeks, but really it's when we sat down and we looked at the project as a whole, which was the tennis court, we were finally able to get everybody in a room and come up with a plan that made the most sense and would be most beneficial to the town. This also really will solve our needs for, I don't know how many years. Soccer seems to keep growing and growing and growing. Baseball is making a little bit of a comeback. Lacrosse is currently on a little bit of a decline. But with our youth sports council, with our user groups, it seems like this is the direction that everybody supports. We have support of soccer president, baseball president was president at the time. Brad also is part of softball. Becky really runs softball and does that. Like I said, Mike Lynn supports it. And we did get some very nice words from Dr. Clenchey about how well thought out the process was. And I feel like taking this to the school board, they would be very supportive, as most of this is on their property. So we would definitely need that support as well. So the biggest drawback is in doing this, I'll let Alicia speak to the whole process more, but that means basically we would need to come up with, for the whole project, we probably need about $100,000 for design to go through. And then we would need to give back the money that we've already appropriated because the tennis court project, God, you can.
Yeah,
tackle this a little more.
hold on, next steps.
Yeah.
Next steps. So obviously, we have an article that was approved and written specifically for creating tennis courts at the high school. So that's the only thing you can do with that money. So what we would need to do, there's a couple of things like that sort of need to happen simultaneously. So first, and that's kind of the hard part is, trying to figure out how we can fund being able to do a report. So that's one thing that we have done on our mind to try to figure out how we're going to be able to do that. Then the next would be getting approval from the school committee, like you said, that's on their property. We would also need to go back and talk to CPC and sort of, give them this full spiel, and hopefully get their support as well. And then at the next town meeting, we would have to put a new article together. So we wouldn't necessarily be giving back that money. It's that we would have to amend that article to say, that money's going to go towards this or, whatever it is that if we're going to in that go do the tennis courts at the middle school and, try to get the fencing in at Whitcomb.
We'd be looking to complete the tennis courts, the Wickham fencing and netting. Fencing, netting and dugouts and the resurfacing / repainting of the new tennis pickleball courts at the high school.
Right. So, and the bonus of this and kind of having this rethink is this all can theoretically happen the same time that we would have been able to do just the original plan. So, you're just getting a lot more for the money that the town's putting in. So, in my mind, I think it's a really smart way of being fiscally responsible and also solving these issues that have been plaguing us for over 10 years. So, this is a really great plan and a good solution. And I thank you guys for taking the time to develop it because it's really fantastic.
So I love it, but wouldn't it be driven mostly by the school committee because it's all on their property? Like 99% of it's on their property, right?
Agreed. So
I think we would support them in doing it.
you are correct.
Okay.
However, with our charge being with the sports council, it's something, we got involved because there was nothing happening with the tennis courts, right? And our pickleball group and the tennis programs we just pretty much don't have them anymore. So that's kind of how we started on
The rec tennis courts are what we
Yeah.
lost, which is how we ended up in this situation.
No, I know like that was the start of it. I get it, but and I think this is a fantastic plan,
Yeah,
but none of it's on our property.
I know.
None of it's all school property.
Who else
And
is
then-
gonna do it?
Well, I think schools, because it's gonna be for schools, like the baseball field's gonna be the varsity baseball field, right?
So it's both usage wise, it's really both schools and youth sports. And one of the reasons, overseeing the youth sports council, soccer has been our biggest, we need to do something.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, when it comes down to usages, yes, high school sports are utilizing these fields, but on the weekends and everything else, they are very
Absolutely.
heavily used by these sports groups, and that's was kind of my charge, was to advocate for them. And this was an opportunity for Mike and I to finally be able to work together and say, what can we do? And because the warrant article had already been presented and we were kind of already tied to it, it just seemed like a kind of easy path forward.
I hear you. And then like, I just recall the alumni field thing where it was going to be a community resource and everyone was going to have access to it and it's going to be great. And, you know, we can't use the scoreboard.
Yeah, but I think that's,
So it's like, I think there needs to be some, if it's going to be us working with them, I think there has to be some agreement of like, okay, control is sort of not under one person.
well, I don't necessarily think it's like alumni as much, because we do schedule the grass fields, we do maintain the grass fields, you know, we use these grass fields for the youth groups. I think it's a little different than alumni, but you know, we are gaining access to, you know, now that we're going to be at Indian Hill, we're going to have more usages at the courts that are over there. We'll now have resources up above the hill that we can just walk up to and utilize green space as well. So I think it's a little different than that. That's just with us moving into Indian Hill. That's my kind of just look at it.
So does anything need to be done at the high school? I mean, I know the grass is coming in and all that, but to put the fields.
Just paint it. That's it. It's
just
net zero. It's
basically
nothing.
laying out the lines. And it will take out the baseball field there.
Potential.
We're gonna mothball both
Yeah.
fields up there essentially, if we decide we're just gonna leave them as is.
Yeah, definitely methods, yeah.
Because that's the other piece of this, is we're now saying that, okay, rather than wait and have this whole tennis court debacle where we have to figure out what to do with the tennis courts when they're already ripped up, once we figure out what's going on with the Shaker Lane site, if during construction, we need a spot to put those two baseball fields, we have them ready to go at minimal cost.
So they are considering building on the baseball fields.
I will say it's deadly to have people playing baseball while soccer is going on, because I've been in
Yeah.
that situation.
So that's what I say to you.
Extremely,
That's what I
extremely.
say to you that's why I mentioned, if that did happen, we would then we would take that fourth field offline in the springtime. The fourth soccer field would come
Yeah.
offline in the springtime, so we wouldn't necessarily, if we got into that situation.
There's two that are easily in the realm of the.
So we would put some kind of temporary fencing or something up. If
We
were
did
to
that
do
with softball
With
before.
softball.
Okay,
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's no joke. that
it's not.
you could get
And
killed.
that was the big.
It's also not varsity baseball, it's youth little league baseball that would
But
be up there.
still,
Yeah,
I've
was
been
just gonna say, yeah, I don't think you have any.
It's
Right,
not worth the
600-foot
risk.
home run
Yeah.
area.
But but I've seen them out there and they're playing like in the dirt rather than at the mound and hitting out into the. It's like crazy, whatever they're doing. Can be deadly.
Yeah.
I've been on the fields watching soccer.
Right.
I've been like, oh my God, duck and cover.
And if we had to do that, then like I said, we would have, you know, conflict again a little bit. Hopefully it wouldn't be as much as what was there before with varsity, playing their varsity baseball, varsity softball. But it would also hopefully be for a minimum amount of time until we were able to get the construction project done. We don't know that it's going to impact us. It just gives us a plan that we could say, hey, this is where we're going. And ideally, we would never get in that situation, and we would eventually loam and see those two fields, and we would put the two 8v8 soccer fields, and now that's our big green complex for everybody.
And in terms of parking over at the middle school, I don't know in terms of the kids playing soccer, that would be after, I would think the high school is playing tennis, but I don't know in terms of. Like,
What's the question?
Parking at the middle school with the tennis courts there.
Yep.
Like, I don't know how full that lot is with teachers and with.
So
tennis
the middle
courts.
school's the first one to let out.
Yeah.
We talked about all of like the dismissal times. The other thing is really that soccer field is just kind of would be a backup slush for the middle school gym teacher.
Okay.
Ideally, there wouldn't be any soccer playing on that
Yeah.
field.
Well, even if it was, the little kids would be later, I would think.
I mean,
Ideally, we try to keep them at the Bible church.
yeah, yeah. So realistically, I mean, I think it's worth that visualization of seeing that we can actually have a full-sized 8v8 field on there. But realistically, the hope is that we wouldn't ever really have to use that just would be a green space that the middle school uses for PE, whatever. But it is nice to know, again, if we end up in a pickle, that yes, we do have something that is the proper dimensions that we could put something.
Okay, and then my other question for the pickleball, which would be amazing if we could finally close that book.
Right.
Would that be done during the summer, or is high school playing on those at all this year, or are they in such bad shape that they can't use?
No,
those?
they play during fall and spring, so they're pretty much done, right, already. But realistically with this, since we're only still keeping the 2 courts, all we would have to do is go in and seal the cracks, because there is some damage to the field, to the courts. So we would have to go in and seal those cracks and then get everything resurfaced. And that's a couple of days.
So,
Actually,
so the
if we
piece
did-
that I do need to just
That's fine.
reconfirm, I did have a post meeting with Steve Mark from the school. They are obviously charged with the maintenance of these courts. So, we had estimated somewhere around $200,000 to, do everything. But if we came back to the resurfacing, the crack sealing, the resurfacing, bringing these up to pickleball tennis courts, it seems like the budget was already tolerated and put into for doing that project. So it seems like Steve probably has the money to complete that part of the project.
Maybe, we have not.
Yeah, we just need to confirm that. We had a preliminary
Yeah.
conversation and it looks like that was already accounted for.
And you just made me think of another question. So if pickleball, would that still fall under the high school to maintain in the future, or because it's pickleball, but it's on school grounds, would
It's a great question. I mean, we
Parks and
used,
Rec maintain it?
This is why
Maintain them at town
MOU
hall.
would be real great.
Well, and I'm
Yeah.
just gonna piggyback on what Kevin said. I mean, remember when the tennis courts were gonna be here? I think we asked that question a couple times on kind of whose
And
domain
who-
is it? Nobody would really answer the question. So
Yeah.
now you take a lot of the things we want to do when it's on school property. A lot of things can be said to get a project done, but once the project's done.
Right.
Oh, yeah, we said that a year and a half ago, but guess what? The fields are done. Now we have new rules kind of.
That's exactly what happened with London.
Yeah, and I'm not saying,
Everything's
people-
open to everyone.
I don't want to make people guilty before they do stuff, but a lot of things can be said to get a lot of things done. And I just want to make sure that we don't.
Is there
I hear
a
you.
formal agreement with the school, is there anything?
I just don't want to step at the short end of the stick, that's all.
When I first got here, which was 10 years ago, there was a memorandum of understanding. I met with Dr. Clenchey and the 2 of us would review it and sign it. A couple years, once alumni came on to the circuit, the select board decided that MOU should then be done between the Park and Rec Commissioner chair, a member from select board and a member from school committee. So Dr. Clenchey and I were taken out of it. And ever since that process happened, we've never had another MOU agreed upon.
the
So-
the group was never able to come up with it. It was brought to the park commission meeting, I think 2018 or
So
19
many
was the last time we talked about it.
Yeah.
Mike Crew was the chair when we actually discussed it last.
And Mike tried really hard. I will give him
Yeah.
credit for that. He really, really tried. So that is something like, yeah, if we are going to move forward with doing something like this.
This, yeah, I mean, I really like this plan. I like having the
Yeah.
tennis courts at the middle school. And I would say that because we're using all of the school land, would be good to have some sort
Right.
of agreement.
So the original MOU essentially was that we would maintain and schedule the grass fields, but maintaining, working with highway. In return, we would be allowed to have space in the school. So like Camp Tehadawon, right? Camp T takes place in Shaker Lane. In middle school in the summertime, we do the LEAP program. So those are the enrichment programs. So we do have space in the school to do those programs. So that was kind of the original MOU, but, yeah, so just so you have some,
Any select board kind of weigh in on this?
Not yet.
not yet. At the meeting, we did have, the town administrator, Jim Duggan, and the assistant town administrator, Ryan Ferrara there as well. So, and they said that they definitely wanted to talk about it offline, so I think if we go into offline discussions, I think that would be worth, you being there.
Yeah, I think one concerning comment that was made was that, there's gonna be drastic changes to the CPC funding and how much could come out of the
Right.
Park and Rec budget. That was one thing to us that, the immediate comment was, well, while this does help the youth sports and we're advocating for the youth sports and this will save the town a lot of money in general,
This is-
completing all of these things, it does to the point that you guys were just making, while we're being great stewards to try to bring this to the table, we really don't get the most out of any of this project, right? We're just the ones who are just advocating and saying, this is a great idea for everybody. How do we complete this? And it checks all these boxes that we've been chasing for years. So the pickleball courts, the tennis courts, the soccer field.
And I also like your idea that you said about maybe making one of those multi-purpose. I would imagine that would serve high school too, just
Yeah.
beyond with teen adventures or the after-school program, any of that.
100%, and that's the
I
thing,
hope
like,
people-
go ahead.
Sorry, I was just gonna say, I hope people, originally that idea, it wasn't poo-pooed, but I think people don't understand what the actual concept is, where it fits all on there. So when we resurface the one court at 300 King, we're actually gonna do one of the courts like that, so hopefully it'll get a little groundswell of support when people actually see it in person. Sorry.
Yeah, no, that's fine.
I could see that would be great for the community and people that live over closer to that area. Hopefully it's not our usual basketball people who take over.
Yeah,
So
The other,
yeah,
the one other piece I forgot to mention in my conversation with Principal Everhart was he did ask about the public coming on site during school. What my solution in that moment was to him is we could put signs up that public court use is available to be accessed through the Indian Hill parking lot at the pickleball and tennis courts during school hours. So that would make sure that people weren't utilizing the tennis courts during school hours except the school staff. And then that way we could drive recreational players to park in the Indian Hill lot, have the access to those pickleball courts from the backside there, or even walk up that little pathway to the high school thing. But that was one of his concerns, and I think that could be addressed very easily by just some simple signage, maybe a couple locks that the gym teachers have access to. We can figure that piece out, but that would be the quick solution to that.
I would think that it could be the same at the middle school with the tennis courts too, if that's a concern.
I think I think with his concern, the ones in the middle school, we would probably not allow the public on during school hours.
We would have signage with,
Yeah,
please
that
use
please
the courts
use the
at
courts at-
56 King Street,
there's,
36, sorry.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that is if the courts are still there at the high school, that's probably, we're still, and you have the access from 36.
Yep.
You're still essentially at two public courts,
Mhm.
which is what we had in Shattuck Street.
Right.
But we are investing in a lot that is not accessible to the public for,
Big
the majority of the
periods
day.
Mhm.
So it is,
If the general public, when these were, I mean, they're open now, but if they went during a school day, did they get kicked off?
For the high school?
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, if the kids were gonna use it, or if there
Yeah.
was like a tennis match, like an actual,
yeah, I could
then
see that.
absolutely,
Yeah.
yeah, for sure.
That's that question, Mike.
Yeah.
What happened now?
I mean, that was
What you're asking?
Right, I mean, we were,
Yeah.
when we were talking about
Yeah.
putting a four there, we were saying that they would be available to the public,
Right.
so. Yeah, I don't know. But there also wasn't before. Whatever it was, the fall, we didn't have. The 36 King Street access point.
Right.
So,
I mean, to go back, when we originally talked about the Warren article, The other opportunity we have, and we could talk to the school board, is, you could redraw the property line right on the other side of, between the buses and the courts, and they could become part of Indian Hill, and
We asked
We can
that,
take
and
that
they
as
were
a-
not interested.
what's that?
It was asked and. they
I'm
were
just
not
saying with the
interested.
full build out of everything, it could be something that is just brought up again.
Okay.
I know what you're saying, I just,
And the 100 grand for the study.
Mhm.
I would think that at minimum, it would be a 50-50 split between the schools and us.
I mean,
It's on their property again, like it's.
Yeah.
just do tennis courts is 63, so just.
Well, oh, I thought we were doing, so we're doing a study for just the new
It's a
tennis
design.
courts.
So
the
the
design.
the engineering of just the new tennis courts, I'm just saying is at 63. I'm estimating that if we wanted to have engineered designs
The
to get
rest.
the other things done, we'd probably need closer
Obviously.
to 100.
not this, right?
Yeah.
But we would need it for this and
The baseball.
But that,
not
I mean,
that, and the
that,
baseball field, essentially.
And that's
those two.
all school. So
that
I would-
implies it's roughly $1 million project.
Yeah, I would say that, because if you take the 733 that we're currently estimating for the construction of the tennis courts, that's what we currently have as our thing.
Yeah.
That price comes down slightly because the site doesn't need as much work. Adding on the projection of, $200,000 for Wickham, and then whatever the cost would be just to repave, crack seal and surface, that's where I drew my numbers from.
Yeah, you probably are gonna have to do some kind of stormwater work at the middle school if you're paving over that whole field.
Cause isn't there a,
We did.
like a catch basin?
So that's part of the
Front,
engineering
back.
is,
Yeah,
we did have the discussion in the meeting,
Yeah.
and the general consensus was maybe that catch basin is large enough because it's a pretty large catch basin, but yes, you're correct. There's probably gonna need to be something there.
Yeah.
But, it's much less than what we would have to try to figure out at the high school.
for sure.
So, yeah, next steps, do we need a,
So next steps would be, I guess, meeting with town administration.
We did ask for letters of support from both of the, from all three of the youth organizations,
Yeah.
which baseball and soccer committed to, like right there, they were ready to go.
Big lacrosse is like it.
Yeah, Mike Lynn, he's like 100% behind this as well. And like I said, Dr. Clenchey had very nice words to say. Obviously, we said that once we kind of put this together, and if we got the support from the park commission as well, you guys could reach out to your liaisons and set up the meeting. Hopefully we can get this going. Ideally, we would take a design and a plan and a timeline to town meeting rather than, just say, hey, here it is, and we're gonna figure it out over the next year. We would get this rolling so we could fix all of these things and
Yeah.
complete the project in the next year and a half.
Fall town meeting this fall?
Yes. Yeah, ideally, we'd get
There's-
the tennis court project started in the spring. And we would have Wickham ready to go in the spring, sorry.
That's okay. There's a very small possibility that there might be a special. So if that was the case, then, we could take advantage of that and try to do it sooner. Yep, that would help us be able to get that 100,000
The
to,
engineering design funding, because then we could go to town meeting with a full plan
In
and actual numbers and a
yeah.
timeline. Ideally, we could get Wickham done in the fall, early spring, have that ready to go. We'd be able to paint the high school fields immediately in the fall. We'd have no issues getting 4 fields online.
No.
And the tennis court project would be able to start approximately the same time that boat that we're in now, which is next spring, completed by the end of the summer, ready for fall. If the money's there to do the high school courts now, theoretically, tennis courts and pickleball courts, that could be done sometime before the fall. I am reaching out based on my conversation to see when they're resurfacing 300 King to get an estimate to see if they could do those fields at the same time. The existing high school courts,
Yeah.
crack, fix them, and then repaint them the way that we want them. Essentially, that could theoretically be the first thing that's brought back online as early as August or September.
and meeting with Activitas, I think, having a company whose bread and butter is doing these projects makes a lot more sense, and they're on the state bid list, so it is somebody that we can go with. I think it makes a lot more sense than trying to nickel and diming everything. I mean, I feel like we lost so much money working with, you know, the other place. And I don't want to do that anymore. I think it makes a lot more sense to make sure that we're getting an engineering firm that really truly knows what they're doing. So they've been a really good help.
So we don't have to do an RFP and bids if
Mm.
we're,
Not for a design. I don't think we would have to. I'd have to double check just because of the amount. But in general, because they're on the state bid list, we wouldn't necessarily have to. But we could. And it might behoove us to do it anyway, because, you know, maybe that's something that would bring the price down a little bit more versus,
Yeah, so I
you
think what'll happen is most likely, and when we talked to John, is like they would do the engineered drawings, design, and everything else, and then it would go out
Yeah,
to the
not the actual build.
construction firms that are going to actually do the work.
Yeah.
Is how this would work.
simply the design. That's all I'm talking about, you know.
Just to clarify that, yeah. Because obviously we need different contractors who specialize in different things in
Yeah.
order to achieve what we're seeking. Anything else?
Questions, comments, concerns? It's a lot.
thanks. Yeah, I think
Putting a lot of legwork.
looks like, yeah, but it's a
Just
lot of moving pieces to make it work.
to Kevin's question earlier about the school paying, I seem to recall us having this conversation when we were doing forecourts at the high school, and the school saying it wasn't budgeted for, so they had no funds to do anything. So I would not get too excited in the future about getting money, but it would
So-
be good if we could.
So ideally, and I agree with you, Kate, because I took that way too, but you know, if we went back with this and we had a full design, I know part of the issue, part of what we did was the borrowing for CPC. You know, I don't know if that's something that we can look at in the article and figure out, once we have the full number, do we just extend the borrowing number? Now it's just not the tennis courts, now we're just borrowing against CPC for the full project.
I don't know how that works, because I know they already started the borrowing process, because Robin did like a chunk of it. So
They just authorized it. I don't know if they
I'll check with her tomorrow.
Yeah,
and
right,
see,
it doesn't make sense for them to have borrowed any money since we haven't spent it.
but I think they have to do that in advance, so it's there.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, I mean, I do.
Thanks.
Yeah, it's gonna be a little
I'm
challenging.
gonna be pulling in Kate, so the school committee meetings, I think.
We gotta find out who the new liaison is. I don't
You
know.
know, I know, but I'm not familiar with all the names, so it's not stuck in my head. So
I saw.
No, I said, yeah, we're, gonna be going back to CBC and it's just gonna be a little bit of a what changed, what happened, so it's gonna take some smoothing over it.
as well as I think a full court. Why are we doing this to the town? You know, so everyone understands.
Yeah.
Very clearly, we're all about trying to
And
Yeah,
also,
be
yeah, I mean,
good stewards, as you said, and do the right thing for the town.
right. And ultimately it comes down to, the design that was done before wasn't done correctly. The timing of it is, we can do something like this for the exact amount of time that we would have to wait for the other option. And the costs have gone up for the other one. So, it's either building on a slope site or taking over a chunk of the parking lot, which won't get approved by school committee. I know it won't. So it would have to be slope site, and that's just gonna go through the roof.
Yeah, they definitely need that space for the buses, because that was very clear.
And it's very clear, yeah, it has been from the beginning, so, so in essence, we didn't really have a choice. We needed to rethink this and to make everything kind of like a stack of dominoes, right? So to make it work for everybody, you kind of need to do all of these pieces for it to work.
Otherwise, it's back to Cooper.
Back to Cooper! Nobody wants to talk about Cooper. All right, moving on.
Well, no,
No?
the other sort of, I do think we need to find out at least to whatever extent we can, what's going on with Shaker Lane.
Yeah,
Because.
they're doing a presentation apparently right now at the select board meeting.
Oh, are they? Okay.
Watch that tomorrow.
Find out tomorrow.
Yeah, a couple more slides, pop over there.
Yeah, I think they were planning on getting out of there early tonight, but yeah, that was something. They do have a committee that meets to discuss, and they did select an engineer, so the engineer was showing some different options.
Okay, so yeah, we just want to make sure that nothing surprising pops up that affects this, because they were.
I think I know what you're talking about. I don't know that that's,
It may be off the table, and
Yeah.
that's fine. I just want to make sure it doesn't come around and bite us.
slight us in the butt. Gotcha, okay.
Yeah.
Fair.
And then, the other thing is, if we're gonna put tennis courts at the middle school, we should probably reach out to the neighbors.
Yeah, it's just,
In fact,
The butters,
the
yeah.
butters.
yeah, it's looking at the homes on the left there.
That's a pretty good barrier from what I
trees?
remember.
The tree line? Could be, I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, there's always been activities there, but this is a little.
It's not as noisy as pickleball.
Yeah, I was gonna say,
It would
pickleball will be good at
not
high
be
school.
lined. for
It'll be great
pickleball.
at the high
Will
school.
not be lined for pickleball.
Yeah,
Yeah, obviously that would be part of our whole entire
Yeah,
process.
that's
We
right.
go through the same process that we just did for the pathway,
Right.
butters,
Yeah.
go through everybody.
so,
Because Wickham, we will probably have to go through some conservation stuff, the fence in the outfield. So if we set the fence at 305 and the corners at 325, we'll be close to that
Yeah.
little brook that runs through there.
Yeah,
And those
like right here.
what's lit up? Yeah, lights.
We originally spec'd the design to run the conduit and everything to have the ability to put lights in.
Gotcha.
But they were not
But we didn't include them in that
Okay.
package. But it will be set up for the infrastructure that if we needed to, it's an electrician pulling and hooking up the lights is as simple as it will. be.
Gotcha, okay, thank you.
Moving on.
All right. So this Thursday is third Thursday. Weather looks pretty decent finally.
second.
It is the second Thursday. Please join us in Fay Park. It looks like the weather's gonna hold out. Come see, Vice Chairman Metrano and his, Friends of Park and Rec tent. At third Thursday.
No, Peter is our vice chair.
I'm not vice chair, so
Come see,
I'm a common member now.
Friends of liaison.
Mr. Metrano and his Friends of Park and Rec tent, he will be there. So I did confirm today, so our food truck is going to be, the taco and burrito truck, and we will have the band that was supposed to have played in June, Blow. So we will have, everybody there. It should be a good event, a little smaller than normal. We didn't have as many businesses sign up this year. Hopefully we'll be able to kind of grow that. July always seems to be a little bit more when people see it happen, and then August is always our biggest one, mainly because we have the water slides and everything else that we put out there. So please come support it, check it out, come have fun. It looks like Thursday afternoon is going to be pretty delightful. We'll have yard games and all the family fun stuff we normally have. So come on down.
Will the robotics team be there with?
They will be there. The robotics team, yeah. They will be
Everybody
there.
loves the robotic team. Yep. Okay. All right, so fiscal rundown, so pretty similar to where we were last month. The revenue's definitely gone down in June, but obviously, we had that huge January and February, so everybody's been paying well ahead, well, mostly because the programs are sold out, so there's that. So it's been easier to get the money in sooner. No, we're doing really good. We're working on closing up, the fiscal 24 books. So, our fiscal year ends on the 30th and the new fiscal year starts on July 1st. It's kind of weird, but that's the way it works. We're just trying to make sure we get all our invoices in, everything done. Yeah. Questions, comments, concerns?
This end of the fiscal year, I think it ends on like a Monday or so. I know on the state side, we have to like do everything like a week earlier
Yeah.
because we can't spend out till Monday.
So it actually kind of works out a little bit better for us because there is a weekend. So our rule is usually the last couple days of June, like do not purchase anything on credit card. Do not, like nothing. So that actually does kind of work for our staff, so they shouldn't be purchasing things on the weekend. So that should be good. But it's the invoices that, you know, that's where it gets to be a challenge because no one ever wants to be that department that has to go to town meeting and say, you know, sorry, it's didn't make it in, we didn't get to pay them in time, so.
We'll have 1 week worth of special payroll, so
Correct.
they'll be back-to-back payrolls.
Because the one will end on the 30th and then obviously into July, so. Yeah. Okay. Just update on annual staff evaluation. So I'm gonna work with Saul next week, to get mine done. Huh?
This week.
Well, I wrote I did this on Friday, so yes, this week. And then, I also am gonna meet with Jim Duggan on, June 14th, just to kind of get his input. So that was one thing we said in the process that, you know, we'd love them to give the feedback as well. So the staff are currently working on their portion of the eval and, hopefully we will finish them up this week. So we should be all set before the end of the month.
And just on that note, I think for the July meeting, we'll come back with whatever our plan is. Last year, we decided.
Oh, yeah.
The chair
I got
and
you.
vice chair would be your supervisor. And deal with that, so in July,
We'll set it so that we
Set it.
complete it in May.
Well,
April, May.
That's a different question.
but just setting, we that was a 1 year thing, so we
Right.
need to reset who the supervisor.
Gotcha. Okay. All right. I have no new business. And old business, so Littleton Electric installed the EV charging station panel on Wednesday, so it's up there at 300 King. And then Guardian Energy should actually be installing the charging stations. It's a two set on Monday, June 24th, and it should really be like a 1-day install and done. So we'll have that. Isn't that funny? We're gonna get electric charging stations before we get our lights back up again. So it's slightly ironic.
Did we ever decide on this, if we're gonna put signage there that you had to actively be using the park to use the chargers?
No, we did not, but
I know we
the
discussed it. but-
signage that was approved says that it's electric vehicle charging. And that it's available, forget, dusk till dawn or something, dawn till dusk. Why do I always say that backwards? But no, it doesn't say that specifically. I know you're gonna have people, you're gonna see gas cars parked there.
Oh, no, that wasn't my point. My point
Oh.
was taking away 2 parking spots. I agree wholeheartedly, they should be EV, but if you're gonna park a car there, you can't like park a car there and leave it to charge or be getting off 185 to charge. Like it should be available for people utilizing the park. If you're utilizing the park, you can charge your car while you're utilizing the park. And then that spot can be available for the next EV that comes to use the park, not necessarily somebody who's just trying to charge up.
I think that's part of the grant is that it just has to be open to the public.
Well, can we put while charging? Because and that doesn't become an EV parking spot for people, even if they're not charging.
That's what I was saying, like, can we put a sign there that says, you know, specifically for patrons who are utilizing 300 King Street?
No, we cannot.
Are we sure about that?
Yes, because that's in the grant. It has to be open to the public.
That is open to the public. You
But
just
they-
have to be actively using the park.
What
I,
about a time limit
yeah,
on?
Yeah.
So I think that typically those things, you're supposed to be charging. If you're parked there, you're supposed to be charging. If you leave the car on the charger
You
after
get-
it's charged, you start getting.
you get
additional
charged more.
Through the
through the-
electric
But
car.
they get it, we don't get it.
Right.
Yeah.
And when it's done, you'll get a little.
But I don't know,
reminder.
like if you, again, this is, you know, if a car was parked there and not plugged in.
Are we towing it?
Police ticket them or tow them, or who does, how do we handle that?
I'm just saying, like, theoretically,
I
our truck,
completely get what
our
you're saying.
truck, we charged it last night. It took 14 and a half hours to charge, right? If somebody left a vehicle there on a Saturday because they had just driven up visiting somebody, they put it there.
Oh, that they can't do. There's no overnight parking. And it
No,
says
but they could
that.
leave it from.
They could leave it the
Like,
full
first thing
day,
in the
I
morning
got
and be
you.
there
And now
all
we're
day.
down. That's my only concern is like,
Yeah.
it would be nice if we could say, while you're actively using the facility, we have these charging stations for you.
Can always kind of see how it goes. And
Yeah.
And then,
I mean,
Or you're
I'll ask
tired.
Diane, but
Well,
I think they were pretty,
Scott.
I missed that.
I mean, word gets around, you know what I mean? Next thing you know, it's not a problem. No, I mean, there's always gonna be somebody that, most people have the right intentions, right? There's always gonna be a small percentage of people that'll take advantage of it, but I would think that most
Yeah.
people will respect
Yeah.
what it's there for, right? We hope.
Oh. All right. And then just some pictures from the Camp T open house. And we have Tim, Rachel, and Mel getting set up for the AED, CPR, and first aid class. So we're the professional rescuer. Thank you. So yeah, it's gravy. Next week we start programs. Woo-hoo, the summer is here.
Up and running.
Wild.
So I do have one question just to toss it out there.
Sure.
If we're moving into Indian Hill and if we're having problems getting space at Shaker Lane, could it be a possibility to split junior and senior campers between Shaker Lane and Indian Hill to try to get just too expensive or just not enough space at Indian?
Indian Hill, and that was one of the things that I wanted to be clear about moving into Indian Hill is we're at 100% capacity.
Yeah.
We're already, there's nothing else that can go in there.
With the
The school
office?
department, yeah.
Okay.
I mean, we've already kind of been told behind the scene like that, we're not supposed to use the auditorium as gym because the floor is not made for it.
Yeah.
Right, that was one of the original selling points, and that's been a big sticking point is like, absolutely, you
We
guys
can't
can't
put
use it as a
basketball
gym.
court, we can't put basketball hoops in, we can't do anything.
Right, so
Because.
we were as shocked as you are right now about that statement.
Essentially, the floor was not built for that. That's what we've been told.
What's it built for then? Just sitting?
Yeah,
Circle time?
It was built in the performance hall, so, yeah.
Okay. So
Got great acoustics though.
Yeah, there's
Decent.
been
I
some,
do a theater component then.
there, we have a theater camp, there's been some conversations and some comments have made that hopefully as we work down the road that they're not gonna come to fruition and that we're gonna have all of it, but there are some concerns about our
Sharing
ability to use
space.
certain space for certain things that originally it was supposed to be being able to use for.
So we will need to get that MOU, so whatever happens with
Yeah.
Shaker Lane, we have space
I
for
mean,
EMT.
even
Best
We've already
case
seen it
scenario-
from the floor. Imagine what it would be like.
Best
for all
case
these
scenario,
facilities.
Sorry, go ahead, no, you go.
the architect had already said at a PMBC meeting that because that had come up and their response was, well, then an MOU needs to be created.
for Shaker Lane for
No,
Canteen.
we're 36.
The project thing.
Well, I was gonna say best case scenario, and if we really wanted to open up communications, it might be a good idea, is if they're not gonna renovate the existing Shaker Lane, maybe we figure out, maybe they don't knock down the whole thing, if they leave the cafeteria, the gym, and the X number of classrooms that we need, and they demo the rest. And maybe that then becomes the solution for the future that costs relatively nothing.
That could be our community center.
Correct.
I mean, there's already discussion, I mean, both companies, I believe, presented renovation plans for
Right.
those buildings separate, not as schools, but as.
Correct.
Something,
And
so.
that's what I'm saying. We just make sure in that conversation that that's the message that we maybe put forward, that, you know, we utilize that space for this and we come up with a true plan of like, what does that usage look like at the beginning rather than paying for it at the end.
Right.
But I think also, I mean, have you heard any feedback on Shattuck Street?
We had a department head meeting today and, we did have a few members from select board. So they had asked us to, you know, give them updates on our department, what challenges we have, and goals. So, that was, sorry, my brain just stopped for a second. Say your question one more time. So,
Shattuck Street plan?
thank you. So I said the lack of having strategic planning from, the town administrator and from the select board is a very big challenge. And I had mentioned that if that building specifically, we're told all the time, well, what's the timeline on this? What's the future? And we don't know. And the reality is like, you know, if that's our home and that's where we have everything based out of, you know, I don't feel like I can do a great job as a director creating that vision of what we're supposed to move into if we're constantly playing this chess game and moving from place to place. So, you know, I need some stability. I need to know, like, you know, you're gonna be here or you're gonna be there, or, you know, and I'm using our department as an example, but in general, I mean, all the departments need that. They need to know where they're gonna be based and what they're gonna do. So, yeah.
I guess I would just guess.
I don't know.
We continue to plan to use that facility for programming.
And I did tell them, so the other, you know, challenge that we have is the transportation issue. And right now, it's not an issue because the kids can walk from the schools over to the program. And I said, until we can solve what this transportation issue is, we're keeping the programs here. We're not gonna move over there until we figured out what it is. And whether that's, you know, working with the schools and figuring out, you know, a busing schedule that works, or we have to buy our own school bus. Like, I don't know what the answer is to that right now. But yeah, for the time being, our intention is to keep the programs there because that's what keeps the cost down. That's what makes it accessible. Yeah.
Well, and the school is doing a good job working with you to advertise the club because it went off again this week that they had or last.
Well, that was our staff.
Yeah.
We were doing the fifth grade visits, which is really,
Yeah.
the school has been absolutely awesome. The new
Yeah.
Tigers Den director has been incredible to work with. So, yeah, it's overall, you know, and even going back to the field, things have been very good between us. The communication is great, the conversations, there are some, you know, uses issues that we've run into, but that's something that we've always had issues with certain people and what we can get access to. But yeah, overall, it's been really good. And I think as long as we keep these conversations going and keep this moving forward and, you know, you as a board and the school board works together, we can, you know, keep accomplishing these things for everybody.
I mean, at the end of the day, it's for the community, you know?
To Saul's point, you know, one of the most awesome things that we had is we started preschool camp today. So if you ever get a chance to swing by, like, you know, we started that at Shattuck Street today and it was amazing. You know, it gave so many parents the opportunity who have little ones. It's a half-day program. It's helping them transition into getting ready for preschool next year. But it's so cool. So those are the kind of things that affords us the opportunity to do.
Yeah.
Right. And it was part of the fifth grade. It was part of their field trip. It was the library and the club.
Very cool.
That was their field trip.
I'm like, I don't know about
We had the first one, first grader to the field trip, second graders to the field trip.
He's got a field day at like Bay Park and, well, 300K. Pretty much, yeah.
And the fire station, yeah, it was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Well, they went the next day to like an actual place, but that was
Alright.
one of their field trips they had this year. You know, just saying, there was much
They're
excitement.
not what they used to be though.
It's not what it used to be, for sure.
Yeah.
Um,
Motion to adjourn.
Yeah, that's it. Go ahead,
I'll
Saul.
make the motion to adjourn.
Second. All in favor? Yeah.
You get it till the end of the day.
Thank you. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? All right,
magic!
we're done.
Where are we at? 8:45.
Look, 8:45 is like the longest. I think it's because the new regime here